There is one thing that makes a pickle perfect. It's not about flavor. That is important, but that just comes down to personal preference or your current craving. No, the one thing that makes an absolutely legendary pickle is crunch. If you've ever had one of those floppy, soggy store-bought pickles that just make you sad, you know, a crunchy pickle is just another level. Even the best flavored pickle is ruined by being mushy. So, how do you ensure that your homemade pickle is as crispy as possible? It's super easy, actually. You just need to know a few simple tricks. The first is picking the right variety of cucumber. Surprisingly, not all cucumbers pickle the same, and your favorite to eat raw probably isn't the best one to pickle. The garden variety large cucumbers you normally see in the store are actually not the right cucumber at all. And those delicious English cucumbers that are so tasty to dip, they're actually the worst ones of all. Both of these varieties will get mushy very quickly when pickling. The best kind are varieties like Kirby and Persian. Don't worry about knowing all the different names because they are very easy to spot just by size. They're tiny. The smaller the better, really, but anything 6 inches and smaller means you probably found the perfect pickling cucumber. And make sure they're fresh. The best pickles are made from cucumbers that are only 1 to 2 days off the vine. So, of course, homegrown is best. But if you can't get homegrown, then farmer's market is ideal. But if you are going to pick some up from the grocery store, don't hesitate to ask the produce worker if there is a fresher box in the back. In my experience, the produce team at the grocery store is the easiest going crew, and there is almost always a fresher box to choose from. So now you have the freshest and smallest cucumbers you can find, so you are ready to start pickling. Well, not quite, actually. The next tip is to soak your cucumbers in ice water. This will ensure a little bit of extra hydration, especially in that outer layer that may have been dried out a bit in transport. Soak them at least 3 hours, or better yet, overnight in the fridge, and you will be well on your way to the crunchiest possible pickle. Next, before you even decide if you want spears or sandwich slices, there is one cut you absolutely must make. Curiously enough, the end of the cucumber where the blossom was attached contains an enzyme called pectinase, and it absolutely ruins pickles. But don't worry about figuring out which end is the blossom end and which is the stem end. Just cut them both off, all fixed. And the last key to a crunchy pickle is tannins. That dry flavor you get from things like red wine and tea, that's tannins. They are a natural astringent that strengthens the cell walls of the cucumber, making it much less likely to break down during the pickling process. There are lots of natural sources for tannins, and a lot of vintage recipes actually call for a grape leaf to be added to the recipe, which works great. Now, I live between the raisin capital of the world and wine country, so it's super easy for me to get a hold of grape leaves, but I would imagine that not everyone can just pop down to their local grape farm and snag a few. So the next best thing is something you probably already have in your pantry: bay leaves. Bay leaves have tons of tannins and a nice mild flavor that's probably going to go with every recipe you try. So just pop a few in your next jar of pickles to ensure a crunchy experience. And the next thing to consider for perfect pickles is the salt you use. I love Himalayan salt for how healthy it is, but it is the wrong choice for making pickles. All those extra minerals that make it so beneficial will really mess with your pickles with very unpredictable results. So it's best to go with a more purified salt. And that might make you think that iodized salt is best, since it is the most processed and purified, but it's not great either. The iodine can darken the pickles and turn the brine cloudy, and the anti-caking agents that it contains can wreak all sorts of havoc on the texture of your pickles. So then there's the ultimate safe choice: pickling salt. If you can't guess by the name, it's specifically designed for pickling, so it's definitely your best bet. It has no anti-caking agents or additives, and it's made with a very fine grain, so it dissolves very quickly and consistently. That said, I chose coarse grain sea salt. I made my decision because it was the best compromise, with no chemicals added, but well purified and limited processing. Also, by using sea salt, I don't have to go out and buy a bunch of specialty salt that I can't use for anything else. Just be sure to avoid fine grained sea salt, as most varieties have anti-caking agents added. So last note for the perfect pickle is actually a caution against a common ingredient that many recipes call for: alum. There are two reasons to avoid it. The first is that while the absolute perfect measurement will help crisp the pickles up a bit, if you are off at all, it will actually have the opposite effect. So one imperfect measurement will ruin your whole batch of pickles. And secondly, alum is a basic, as in the opposite of an acid. So alum can actually alter the pH of your pickles, canceling out some of the acidity, which can be dangerous because you're relying on that acidity to preserve your pickles. That can be downright dangerous, resulting in a spoiled batch of pickles that can make you sick. Just not worth it. So that's it. Pick the smallest variety you can find, source them as fresh as possible, soak them in ice water overnight, cut off the ends, use the right salt, and add a source of tannins. If you follow these simple tips, you will enjoy the crunchiest pickle you've ever had. So if you're ready to make some delicious pickles, follow me for my favorite vintage recipes, and be sure to repost these tips if you found them helpful.